more like book club type vibe for the video. We're gonna like get into like some of the characters, like the relationships, because there are a lot of characters throughout the book that we kind of explore. My favorites are probably Vin, um, Sazed, and Spook. Vin and Spook kind of for similar reasons, but different in a way. Just because like Vin, she is like this kind of seen as like the chosen one, because she's an Allomancer and she's a Ska Allomancer, which is very rare unless like you have noble blood in your bloodline or whatever. And so she's also not just like a regular Allomancer, she's a Mistborn, meaning she has like access to all the Allomantic abilities. And so just talking about this kind of sounds a little crazy. I'm like, what? But yes. And so like she's kind of seen as like a chosen one. She's like kind of like a prodigy when it comes to like being a Mistborn, and we kind of see her like growing her confidence as she gains more understanding about like the world around her, and she kind of like falls into like Kelsier's mentorship. And then we also have Spook, who he's kind of like an overlooked character. And in the beginning, I didn't really pay too much attention to him, but like seeing how he grows in the second and third books really kind of like opened my eyes to like how integral he was like the storyline, and how like he like also was inspired by Kelsier. But again, with him being like a background character, he doesn't have as much highlight throughout the series until toward the end. And just seeing him like come into his own and become like a leader in his own way, while also still following Kelsier's footsteps and becoming like the, once he becomes the I think it's called the survivor of the flames, that's when I really was like, okay, he's on like a different wave. And that's when they started like to kind of shift from around my perspective around him as character. And then Sazed, I'm a little biased because he was my favorite character from the beginning, just because I really enjoyed his banter with Vin, and like just like the relationship, and like how he always looked out for her, like no matter what. And then they just kind of like both grow in like their own ways, especially like in the second and third book, because he kind of has to go on his own journey and like his own path of like discovery. And then after he like loses Tyndall, whatever her name is, RIP. But after he loses her, and like he kind of like has like a different, he has to like rebuild his relationship with his faith, because he kind of like loses all faith after she's gone. And then we kind of like see more of like his like inner workings and like why he's like studying all these different religions. Of course, it's like because he's like a terrorist, and like that's kind of like part of like what they do as like the world bringers, like just kind of like bring all the stories of the world together to like help rebuild the world, I guess, like when things fall apart. But we kind of see like more of that like once he